Okay, the next udah ada wiapa dari tadi ini. Kalian underestimate saya sepertinya ya. I can speak English but little, you know. Not very much gitu. Oke, untuk selanjutnya kita akan memanggil dari tim number jing 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 dari number 3 dari pegawai bidang keberatan banjing dan pengurangan dan fungsional penyidik pegawai negeri sipil Kanwil DJP Aceh. For number 3, the floor is yours. Bidang keberatan banjing dan pengurangan dan fungsional penyidik pegawai negeri sipil Kanwil DJP Aceh.
Bang Mutia ya? Itu nggak tahu. Oh, udah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ini udah. Talking about Hari Kemerdekaan or Independence Day, I'm sure that everyone here has our own description about it. Anyone? What does it mean Independence Day to you? Thank you. There an undeniable fact that when we talk about Independence Day, there is a leader behind it. As we have known, Indonesia is led by a president. I believe that we all know the president of Indonesia are Soekarno, Soeharto, B.J. Habibie, Abdurrahman Wahid, Megawati Soekarno Putri, Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono, and Joko Widodo. But have you ever realized that there are two people that might consider as the president of Indonesia? They are Syafruddin Prawira Negara and his son, Mr. Asad Syafruddin Prawira Negara. And today I'm about to tell you the story of the forgotten president, Mr. Syafruddin Prawira Negara. Syafruddin Prawira Negara was born in Banten on February 28, 1911. He pursued a degree in law faculty of University Indonesia. And he also earned his postgraduate degree as a Master of Law. Despite his education in law, he took a job as a tax inspector in Kediri. He also became the Minister of Finance of Republic in Indonesia. He started his political career as the member of Komite Nasional Indonesia Pusat, known as DPR today. Syafruddin played a major role in the issuance of Uang Republik Indonesia, or ORI. On December 19, 1948, Syafruddin was assigned to form an emergency government when President Soekarno and the Vice President Muhammad Hatta were arrested by the Dutch and exiled to Bangka Island. When the second military aggression. The emergency government was known Pemerintah Darurat Republik Indonesia or PDRI. Taking place somewhere in West Sumatra, PDRI showed their assistance PDRI showed their assistance as the government Republic of Indonesia. Technically, Syafruddin can be considered as the president of Indonesia. Later on July 14, 1949, Syafruddin returned the mandate to Sukarno. When Syafruddin became the Minister of Finance of Indonesia, Indonesia was threatened by the economic crisis. In that situation, Syafruddin made a controversial monetary policy, which called Gunting Syafruddin. This policy literally cut the money, like that, cut the money into two pieces. The first cut became the money, and the second one became the original value. While the second discount is exchanged as a coupon for state bonds. Oh, dear husband, did you make any mistake? Your salary is considered. Your salary is decreased. Listen, my love, I did this for this country. Indonesia is in crisis. But you should have told me earlier, so I can save some for our needs. Just be thrifty. Just be thrifty. I cannot tell anyone about this, so I won't tell you as well. After became the Minister of Finance, Syafruddin became the Director of Bank Indonesia. His relation with central government wasn't good because he was disappointed with Sukarno. He joined in PRRI, Pemerintahan Revolusional Republik Indonesia, and did an offensive to Sukarno. That the big man started to lead to power that tend to be absolute, and his attitude towards the people who were against him also tended to be harsh. Then, on 1960, PRRI was crushed, but Sukarno gave them forgiveness and gave them money amnesty to them. He died on February 15, 1989, at the age of 77. Even though he has been controversial at that time, the government established him as a national hero on November 7, 2011. That's the end of the story. So the moral value that we can learn from that story is we must hold on our integrity in every situation. Thank you for all your attention, and sorry if I made a mistake. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Wow, luar biasa Mutia ya. Yang menceritakan tentang perjalanan dari Mr. Syafruddin Prawira Negara. Seorang menteri dari Kementerian Keuangan pertama Indonesia yang menerapkan cutting Syafruddin. Jadi dia sedang menerapkan kebijakan, yaitu salah satu yang berintegritas tinggi. Bahkan ketika kebijakan itu sehari sebelumnya diberlakukan, dia tidak akan memberitahukannya kepada keluarga sekalipun. Betul, Clara? Betul. Nah, itu dia. Intinya seperti itu. Terkandung makna integritas. Oke, for the next. Sebenarnya udah tahu ceritanya. Udah tahu. Oke, for the next, kita akan memanggil, ini untuk ketiga ya, untuk tim nomor 8. Tim number 8 from Aceh Besar Tax Office. Aceh Besar Tax Office, the floor is yours.
Tes. Sini juga mungkin boleh ya. Main dot ya. Sini kali. Sini aja. Bersihan. Tes. Okay, good morning everyone. Okay. The proclamation of Indonesian independence on the 17th of August 1945 was the pinnacle of entire history of Indonesia, which shows that the triumphant success of Indonesian struggle for independence, but proclamation was never an easy ride. On the 15th of August 1945, a debate happened between the youngs and the olds, because the young wanted the proclamations of Indonesian independence to be announced on that night, the moment when the Japanese surrendered to the Allies. But the olds considered that independence must be announced through Panitia Persiapan Kemerdekaan Indonesia or PPKI. Reaching the climax of the debate, Khairul Saleh, one of the young, said, "Now is the time, Bung. Now, on this night, we shall spark a revolution." The speech was greeted with cheers by the youngs. Wikana of the young said, "If Bung Karno didn't announce the proclamation this night, then there will be murder and bloodshed." Hearing that, Sukarno's of the old replies, "Here is my neck, drag me to that corner and take away my life right now. No need to wait for tomorrow." The debate ends without reaching an agreement. So the young devised a plan to kidnap Bung Karno and Bung Hatta to Rengas Dengklok. So on the 16th of August 1945, 4 o'clock in the morning, Bung Karno and Bung Hatta were brought to Rengas Dengklok. There, the youngs again urged both of them to immediately announce the proclamations of Indonesia's independence. Meanwhile, in Jakarta, Ahmad Subarjo negotiates with Wikana of the Young. After reaching an agreement, they went back and bring Bung Karno and Bung Hatta back to Jakarta with a guarantee that proclamation must be announced on the 17th of August 1945. On the night of 16th of August, at the residence of Admiral Maeda, the proclamation text was formulated by Bung Karno, Bung Hatta, and Ahmad Soebarjo. The proclamation text then was typed by Sayuti Melik of the Young. On the 17th of August, 5 o'clock in the morning, everyone left Maeda's residence and moved to Sukarno's residence to read the proclamation's text. It was busy back then in Sukarno's residence. Everyone was busy preparing for that monumental event. So on the 10 o'clock in the morning, Bung Karno and Bung Hatta went out from the front door. The ceremony that time was modest. Bung Karno and Bung Hatta moved towards the microphone, and with a shattering voice, Sukarno reads the proclamation text, followed by the raising of the red and white flag while singing Indonesia Raya. Indonesia Raya. A road to independence was never a straight one, but on the 17th of August, we were reminded that just like the history of proclamation, through strong will and collaboration, we can make things possible. Merdeka!
Okay, that's it.
Merdeka!
Oke, give him an applause. Mantap. Jadi tadi dia bercerita tentang peristiwa Rengas Dengklok. Itu dia. Pokoknya dibawa lah ya kan. Dari Jakarta dibawa ke Rengas Dengklok ketika mendengar bahwa Jepang kalah dari Sekutu pada tanggal 10 Agustus 1945. Kaum muda pada saat itu berjumpai Soekarno, pada kaum tua berkata bahwasanya Jepang sudah menyerah nih, saatnya kita merdeka seperti itu. Tapi karena kaum tua termasuk kaum sifatnya itu bijaksana, nggak mau terburu-buru. Jadi pada saat itu Soekarno ingin menyatakan pula ya kan, ingin merasakan kemerdekaan sesuai dijanjikan oleh Jepang pada saat itu. Namun mereka kaum muda ini karena terburu-buru, ingin cepat-cepat. Jadi pada saat itu menolak dan pada saat itu diancam ingin dibunuh. Namun pada akhirnya para pemuda ini membawa Soekarno menuju ke Rengas Dengklok dengan alasan keamanan dari Jepang. Jadi takut Jepang datang ke Soekarno ingin mengubah pemikiran segala macam lah karena pada saat itu Jepang kalah. Namun terakhir ada diskusi dari kaum muda dan kaum tua, diputuskan bahwa kemerdekaan akan dilaksanakan pada tanggal 17 Agustus 1945 dan di rumah Laksana Maeda itu disusun dan dilaksanakan seperti itu. Tapi pulang ya, habis itu pulang baru buat naskah baru langsung ini. Oke, untuk selanjutnya kita akan memasuki show yang keempat yang akan disampaikan oleh tim number 2 dari bidang DP3 dan bidang P2 Humas. The team 2, the floor is yours.
Tes. Oke. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ya, assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, judges. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's very pleasure because I'm standing in front of you. I'm not prepared everything, but now, yeah. Before I made this, I missed this function. So I start with I want to talk about Independence Day. Yeah, that's often, yeah. But I want to talk about behind the scene or fun fact about the proclamation. Yeah. I want to start with our first president quote, Mr. Insinyur Soekarno. He said, bangsa yang besar adalah bangsa yang menjunjung tinggi nilai sejarah. So, let's start the fact about our proclamation. Usually, every Independence Day, we celebrate our Independence Day with flag ceremony and 17 August competition. Is it right? Oh my God. Okay, is it right? Just say it louder, okay? Yes, okay. Yeah. First, I want to tell you a story behind the ceremony or the story behind our proclamation.
I don't want to tell you the story, the process about the proclamation. That's it's gonna be a long, long story, and other contestant has our was tell that story. I wanna tell you about the fact behind the proclamation. Okay. Once, the first unique fact about our Independence Day of Indonesia is the proclamation event fell on Friday, coinciding with the month of Ramadan. That's the holy month. The second fact is the ceremony was carried out simple, without any protocol. That's so simple. Just with a bamboo flagpole stuck into the ground. That's so simple, but very, very sacral. The third fact is the first country to recognize our Independence Day was Palestine. Okay, and followed by the other Middle Eastern country. The fourth fact, 2 hours before reading the text of proclamation, the Insinyur Soekarno was hit by a malaria virus. And the fifth or the last fact about our Independence Day of Indonesia is information dissemination on Independence Days was carried out by recording Soekarno voice spread by Sayuti Malik over the radio. Yeah, that's the 5 fact about our proclamation. Next, I want to tell you about the story behind the 17 August competition. Like that we doing in the morning. First, the story behind the 17 August. First, cracker eating contest, aka lomba makan kerupuk. Okay, don't be serious. Okay, this is a competition. This competition remind us that in the past, Indonesian people only ate with rice and cracker. Do you know? Rice and cracker. Okay, that's so pity, right? Second, sack race competition. Not sex, yeah. Sack race competition. Okay, AKA balap karung. Don't be serious. Come on, guys. This competition remind us that in the past, it was difficult for Indonesian people to have clothes and they only use sack as a clothes. The third is tug of war competition, aka lomba tarik tambang. This competition remind us that the Indonesian people used to be manual labor and use rope a lot. And the last is Areka climbing competition, aka lomba manjat pinang. Okay, now this competition original in Netherlands. They bring the competition from the Dutch in Netherlands. This competition called the Klimas, not climax. Okay, the Klimas. Okay, okay. This competition used as entertain the Dutch government. Okay, this competition is made for Indonesian people to get food and clothes. So that's the behind story of our Indonesian Independence Day. Like I said in the opening, I start with quote from our first president, Mr. Insinyur Soekarno, and this closing, I wanna convey a quote from our beloved Minister of Finance of the Republic of Indonesia, Ibu Sri Mulyani Indrawati. She said, anyone? Do you know what she said? Okay, okay. She said, If you don't care about your country, never expect other people care about your country. So, jangan pernah lelah mencintai negeri ini. Sekian, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Jajus. Aduh.
Aduh. Aduh. Untuk speech tetap mengandung unsur jokes bapak-bapak sepertinya ya. Tetap ada unsur jokes bapak-bapak di setiap speech gitu. Bahkan sampai speech bahasa Inggris pun ada bapak-bapaknya juga ya. Oke. Untuk selanjutnya. I want to tell you about what I want to tell you. Untuk selanjutnya, for the next. Please welcome team number 1 from bagian umum, fungsional penilai dan bidang PP Kanu DJB Aceh. Team number 1, floor is yours.
Cek. Harga jasa cahaya pelita bagi Indonesia merdeka. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. Good to see you today. I hope you have a good day today. Okay, today I want to talk about an Aceh hero. His name is Tukunya Arif. Do you guys know Tukunya Arif? You must know because it's the street name in Lamnyong. But do you guys know who he is in person? If you don't know, let me tell you. Tukunya Arif is a noble born. We can see from his name, he's noble born. He was the son of Tukunya Banta, a noble from Ulele, Banda Aceh. From young age, he was already a smart and brave guy. And his nationalism already shows at young age also. He despised the Dutch. He thought that the Dutch only brought sadness and sorrow to Aceh people. He always kept in mind one sacred Acehnese oath that Muslims will never surrender forever. When the time is right, Muslims will take the time and return the favor. That hatred made him a rebel at school. He always fought and debated with his Dutch teacher, but that doesn't stop him from learning. To pursue education, he traveled far to Bukit Tinggi and Banten to deepen his knowledge and understanding in politics, and also to amass friends and allies. As the time passes, he gained more nationalism. His nationalism grew and grew larger every single day. And then he kept pondering and pondering, perfected his mind and his nationalism until he reached the resolve that Indonesia must gain its own freedom. So by that, he went back to Aceh to put his skill, experience, and ability to good use. At that time, when he got back from Banten, it was still in Dutch colonization. And then after the power shift, there's one good quote that he said. Just after we get rid of the dogs, the swine is already coming in. Just like with the Dutch, he also despised the Japanese. But instead of showing hatred, instead of rejecting them, he collaborated with them. He thinks that this is the way to gain freedom. So he was chosen as a Guncho. Guncho is
a leader of a district. So a Guncho of Kota Raja. And one of his friends also got chosen as a Guncho in Sigli. His name is Tuku Hasandik. You guys know Tuku Hasandik? Yeah. He was the friend of Tukunya Arif. These two friends were two of the 15 delegates that was the people that were sent to Japan to see how great Japan is by the Japanese government. Actually, Tuku Hasandik and Tukunya Arif didn't really like the idea because they thought that we already have our own beautiful culture and we have our own fine courtesy. So we gain nothing by going to Japan, but they don't have any choice. They still go to Japan. In Japan, they were really welcome and they were guided to the palace of the emperor. At the emperor palace, they were told to bow down to the emperor. Hey, bow down. But Tuku Hasandik and Tukunya Arif didn't bow down and say, we will never bow down to any man in this world. We only bow down to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. The emperor were furious. Nani? But the guide quickly handled the situation and told them that if you cannot bow, just nod instead. So they only bow on the whole trip in Japan. After the trip to Japan, they went back to their respective homeland. Tuku Hasandik and Tukunya Arif went back to Aceh. In their respective homeland, they were told to put a good word for the Japanese people in Japan. They don't really like it. They don't feel like to say a good word about Japanese there. But they don't have any choice, just like before. So Tuku Hasandik says that Japanese people in Japan were really good people. But the Japanese here, the soldiers are rotten to the core. They're evil men. The Japanese soldier, hearing this, were furious. Look at us there. So they swarmed the house of Tuku Hasandik and killed him. Hearing this news, Tukunya Arif was furious. And he said, my friend, I will not let your sacrifice go down the drain. I'll make sure that I will search every place, every nook and cranny in Aceh and cleanse this place of Japanese. I'll make sure of it, for the spirit of freedom is still in people's heart. His hatred grew and grew every single day. Until one time, there is a meeting with Guncho, him, and the Japanese government. At that meeting, he points at the Japanese soldier. These are the Japanese traitors that take the name of other Japanese. The Japanese soldier that hears that, really angry and saying, oi, 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 nani o anase? Hearing that, Tukunya Arif replied with, here, cut open my throat, for I didn't die by the bullets of the Duchess. What can be feared by those pathetic swords of yours? The Japanese soldier were taunted. Nani? She's a killer! Sine! Itoriu! Just before the Japanese soldier unleashed his ultimate powerful one-sword move. His superior came and intervened. Yamete kudasai, kenka shinai de. Anda, sasato suare. And then that angered Japanese person sit down with a red face. And then the meeting continues with all sorts of problems that it has. Not long after that, Teukunya Arif was chosen as vice chairman of Sumatran Chuo Sangiin to continue to make effort to make this world, this country a free nation. On 17th of August, 1945, Soekarno-Hatta do the proclamation proclaiming that Indonesia is a free nation. Hearing the news of Indonesia's freedom, 3 policemen of Kota Raja start their engine, hit the gas like their life depends on it, and then run across Banda Aceh by waving the flag of Indonesia. 2 weeks after the proclamation, not on the day of proclamation. So Kota Raja knows Aceh is a free nation 2 weeks after the proclamation. You guys can know everything in every part of this world by a flick of hand, but they know that this country is free 2 weeks after it was announced. So to commemorate their effort into making this come true, I want you guys to punch the air and say, Merdeka!
Aduh, luar biasa. Mas Topik dengan dengan bercerita tentang Teukunya Arif. Waduh, di sini kita juga belajar bahwa cara untuk mengalahkan musuh ya tentunya berteman dengan musuh itu sendiri, ya kan? Berkolaborasi dengan musuh itu sendiri. Tapi kenapa tadi kok ada jurusnya Zoro tadi? Kok ada Nitoryu tadi? Jurus Nitoryu itu jurus 2 senjata, betul? Jurus 2 senjata. Ni 2. Oh, Itoryu 1 berarti. Oh, sorry. Kira Nitoryu tadi. Udah pegang 2 ya kan? Oke. Itulah penampilan tadi dari tim 1. Waduh, ada bahasan. Tadi Jepang ya kan? Jepang, Inggris, ada lagi tadi apa lagi? Indonesia, untuk nggak Aceh aja ya kan? Oke, untuk selanjutnya, for the next, ada jeng jeng jeng. Tim number 6, tim nomor 6 dari Banda Aceh Tax Office. Saudara di pertama Banda Aceh. Tim number 6, floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good afternoon to you, honorable guests, my beloved friends, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. My name is Yara Mutia Saragi. I am from Banda Aceh Tax Office. And today, first of all, I would like to thank you for lending me your ears. Today, I would like to tell you a story about a land far away from here, a land where I was born. Guessing from my name,
Yaramuta Saragi. Can you guess where I'm from? You're right. Bandung, try again. You're right, I'm from North Sumatra. Also right. But precisely, I'm from North Sumatra, Pematang Siantar. And the story I'm about to tell is about the origin of Simalungun. Let's begin with once upon a time. Once upon a time, there lived three small kingdoms. First, the kingdom of Raya. Second, the kingdom of Saragi. And then the kingdom of Tanah Jawa. You may be wonder, why is there a kingdom of Tanah Jawa in Sumatra? Well, I don't know. It's just what is written on the script, long ancient script. Now, those three kingdoms lived very happily and peacefully. They got along very well and lived very harmoniously together. They got along very well, and the people, they were prosperous because they knew by sticking together, they were strong. They never lacked any food because the kingdom was prosperous, right? But this prosperity and luck, the fertile of land, made other kingdoms jealous. You know, other kingdoms from other islands are jealous because of these small people. Despite their small land, they are very rich. What's with that land? We have to get that land. And you guess what? The kingdom of Majapahit, they want to take the kingdom of Batak. They sail from Java, and they plan to attack those small three kingdoms in the North Sumatra. One of the soldiers then said to the king, they said, Your Majesty, where they may be like, Your Majesty, I have a bad news. Majapahit kingdom is going to attack us. King said, I know. Majapahit is such a strong and grand kingdom. We cannot fight them alone. We need to call a best friend. And guess what? Who's their best friend? The best friend is the kingdom of Raya and the kingdom of Saragi. And then the king sent the message to the king of Kingdom Raya and the king of Saragi. The two kingdoms responded request. They sent their best soldiers to help the kingdom of Tanah Jawa's kingdom, and they did it. The three kingdoms were able to fight the kingdom of Majapahit, and they made Majapahit leave their land for good. But alas, oh alas, sadly, that problem is not over yet. It seemed that other kingdom was also ready to attack these three small kingdoms after the Majapahit. So after they sent soldiers that they ride after fighting the Majapahit, they also have to fight the other people. No one knows what kingdom they came from, but they attacked so fiercely, they attacked so simultaneously that these three small kingdoms cannot help each other anymore. They have to save their lives. And then finally, they were lost. They were lost and they had to leave their places. They had to leave this land and they had to flee to fight the same place. They found a good place, and this good place seemed quite safe because it is surrounded by a lake, a small island surrounded by a lake. You know it, a Samosir Island. They lived there. They built houses, they plant rice fields, and they did not know when they would go back home. Time passed by. Their hiding place slowly became a small village. They have built houses and they have also rice field. But one day, one of them said, they want to go back home. And he saw him say, who wants to go back home with me? And his other friend said, well, I don't. I love this place, this kind of safe. And who knows if our is still there? What we're gonna do if we come back there and they attack us again? But other people having their faith restored again and they gain stronger after days and days, they go back and they prepared weapon. They start the journey to go back to the land of Simalungun. After months and months of journey, they finally arrived. Some of them were crying. Their hometown, the completely. the beloved hometown where they were raised and born there are now like a tomb. You know, tomb? Like a cemetery. Like dead people. No one's there. Only flat. Only flat. Not even animals. Not a single sound. Just going rushing through. It's like not a sound of anything. So quiet. It was so eerily quiet that it's scary. So the people, they know it's their hometown, but the place becomes somehow strange and feels weird to them. So they say, such quiet place. So it's so quiet. But in Batak language, they say, sima-sima malu. Sima-sima malu. Be quiet. It's such a quiet. That's why that place now we call as Maluma. Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, what can we learn from the story? If one of that small kingdom tried to fight the grand, great Majapahit kingdom alone, what would happen to them? Do you think they would have a chance to win against the Majapahit? Well, maybe. Nobody knows. But the chance would be greater if they are together, right? Together they're stronger. Yeah. Even if they still lost at the end, even if they struggle so much, the people still survive. Even they even still able to gain their land back, right? And their generation, they still last to this day. Me, one of them is me, right? This small but fierce kingdom is what made us Indonesia. Endless fight, endless fight against perpetrators, long wars, and who knows how many sacrifices until we finally reunited under the Republic of Indonesia and free. Thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum.
Waduh, terima kasih tentunya untuk tim number 6, number 6. Waduh. Bercerita tentang, ada yang tahu tadi bercerita tentang apa? Tentang Simalungun. Berasal dari kata Simat Lungun-lungun ya, tadi ya. Mohon maaf, mungkin ada yang mengerti, gitu kan? Oke. Tadi kayak di storytelling gitu nggak sih, kayak diceritakan perlahan-lahan, ya kan? Kayak lebih, saya kayak dengar apa gitu ya. Oke, untuk selanjutnya, next kita akan masuk ke tim nomor. Untuk tim number 4. Tim nomor 4, waduh, nomor 4 tadi dari fungsional pemeriksaan dan bidang pemeriksaan penagihan intelijen dan penyidikan Kanwil DJP Aceh. Tim number 4, floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First, let us praise and thank you to Allah, the Almighty, the Master of the Universe, and not forget peace and salutation be upon our Prophet Muhammad SAW, his devoted servant and his great messenger. Greetings to all our leaders and peers and judges that present here. So, once upon a time, back in the days, there was a company named Verenigde Oost-Indische Compagnie, or we call it VOC, came to our land with intention of trading the spices with our ancestors. But years gone, and they suddenly become evil. They changed their plan. They want to colonize our land people, resources, and our spices. Our ancestors don't want to be colonized, so they stood up and they fought with all their might, blood and sweat for about 350 years to fight them. After years and years we've been colonized, Dutch, along with the VOC, lost, and their power weakened by time. But after that, Japan came, not with a good intention, but with their power and with the guns. And sadly, once again, we've been colonized by them, the Japanese. 3.5 years of colonizing us, Japan lost the war to America, and our heroes saw that opportunity to claim our independence. After years of tears, sweat, blood, and energy, there was a chance for us to be free from colonialism. Then, Sukarno, our first ever president, declared our independence 77 years ago at ages 17, 1945. And it all became a sweet victory for us all. But don't forget one thing. The independence that we have now is given by Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. It is by His will we got the freedom we have now, so don't neglect His others. That's all. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Oke. Mantap sekali Bang Eki dengan bercerita tentang sejarah dari Indonesia. Oke. For the last one, waduh, last but not least sepertinya. Ada yang terakhir dari team number 5 from Banda Aceh Tax Office. Team number 5, floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, good afternoon. My name is Rehan Safira. I'm from Banda Aceh Tax Office. First of all, let us praise the Almighty Allah because of His blessings we are able to attend to this storytelling contest. Secondly, may peace be upon our Prophet Muhammad SAW, who has guided us from the darkness into the lightness. Today, I will tell you a story about Cut Nyak Dien. Cut Nyak Dien was a warrior from a country named Aceh. She was raised in a strong Islamic religion education. Since childhood, she was educated to be an independent and responsible person by his father, who was also a fighter named Teku Nanta Setia. Cut Nyak Dien was used to cook and do other housework on her own. This made her grow into a strong and tough woman. In 1873, at the age 25, she was married a fighter who was also highly respected by the Dutch, named Teku Ibrahim Lamnga. Teku Ibrahim Lamnga is known to always be at the forefront of fighting the Dutch. When the Dutch declared war with Aceh, Cut Nyak Dien's father and husband did not remain silent. They unite and inflame the spirit of the Acehnese. Come on, Acehnese people, we must not give up. Let's unite against the invaders. Let's unite against the invaders. Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! The Dutch launched attacks everywhere. And what made Cut Nyak Dien the most angry was when the Dutch burned Baitur Rahman Mosque. Cut Nyak Dien said, "Oh my people, whose name Acehnese, look at this. Look at this. Witness it with your own eyes. Our mosque is burned. They are against Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Your place of worship has now been destroyed. God's name is defiled. Keep that in your mind. Are there still Acehnese who like to be Dutch slaves?" She was really angry. The anger of Cut Nyak Dien just subsided when her husband returned.
from battlefield and reported that General Kohler was shot dead by Acehnese fighter in the yard of Baitur Rahman. Unfortunately, in short time, Chen Yat-din had to realize that the death of his father and husband in battlefield. However, the death of her father and husband did not make her enthusiasm down to fight the Dutch. She promised to avenge the cruelty of the Dutch on his father and husband, until finally she met and married with another fighter named Teku Umar and continued the struggle. However, the weapons owned by the Dutch are very complete, while the people of Aceh only survived by using rencong. Then Teku Umar made a plan. I will pretend to surrender and join the Netherlands. Then I'll send you more weapons. Unpredictable that Teku Umar's tactic was successful. He was trusted by the Dutch and made him as the leader of the war. Meanwhile, Cut Nyak-dien continued to inspire the Aceh people, the people of Aceh. Now, they don't need to be worried because they got more weapons from Teku Umar, which stole from the Dutch. Until finally, Teku Umar's disguise was discovered by the Dutch. The Dutch were very angry. What? Umar was a liar? Kill them all. Bring his head to me. Died or alive. War broke out again. Cut Nyak-dien and Teku Umar also fought the Dutch together, but unfortunately, Teku Umar died in war. Panglaut ignored the words of her. However, due to the long journey of Cut Nyak-dien, her health decreased. A guard for Cut Nyak-dien named Panglaut felt so sorry for Cut Nyak-dien and suggested that Cut Nyak-dien surrender herself. I'd rather to die stabbed with a sword in my chest than surrender myself to the Dutch. Panglaut ignored the words of her. He reported the location of her headquarters to the Dutch because of pity. She asked the Dutch to treat Cut Nyak-dien respectfully. Furthermore, Cut Nyak-dien was arrested and treated. Then she was exiled to Sumedang, West Java. Because of the Dutch, that her presence would create a spirit of resistance. On November 1908, Cut Nyak-dien died on her age. So the conclusion we can take from this story, Cut Nyak-dien was a very resistant hero who against the invaders. Despite she had been left by her loving people on war, she never gave up and felt hopeless. The spirit of Cut Nyak-dien should be an example for us, the young people of the nation. That's all from me. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you Rehan Safira. Waduh, sebagai penutup dari penampilan penutup ya dari kegiatan storytelling competition Kanwil DJP Aceh 2022. Oke. Bahasa Indonesia aja lah ngomong lah ya, bahasa Inggris lagi. Mau ngomong bahasa Inggris tadi apa? Mau ngomong. Oke, berikut tadi adalah penampilan terakhir dari seluruh kegiatan lomba storytelling dan tentunya seluruh kegiatan lomba kita yang telah terlaksana dari tadi pagi sampai sekarang ini. Dan mungkin ada sedikit speech mungkin dari juri untuk ini overall bagaimana? Silakan.
Okay, thank you very much for. That's okay. No, do I need to? All right.
Yes. In front of.
All right.
Us.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. All right. From the judges' perspective, we are really proud of each and every contestant that participating in this storytelling competition. That was great. And I can tell that some of you really have a talent, like a nature to be public speaker or to be a storyteller. And I'm hoping that this is not just a competition, but you pursue your talent to go further, to be a public speaker, motivator, or maybe study overseas that will enhance your ability to to actually benefit in the real world. We are surprised actually I think the top three, I know the top three, I don't know about Bang Fandi because we have to deliberate and the judge's decision is final. So if you want to appeal, you cannot because it's final, all right? And that's it. I think we don't need to reveal today, right now. Do we have to reveal today or right now or after today? Yeah. Okay, we are going to calculate our score. Yeah, and I think I'm really proud of every contestant. So much for participating and good afternoon.
Oke. Oke, ladies and gentlemen, kita ladies and gentlemen, tadi nanti akan dilakukan penilaian. Nanti juri akan berembuk sementara untuk menentukan siapa pemenang dari storytelling untuk hari ini. Dan juga nanti kita akan break dulu, break sholat. Nanti 4:30 kita berkumpul kembali di sini di Aceh Mulia Cafe untuk kita mengumumkan siapa pemenang dari juara lomba-lomba yang dari tadi pagi, dan juga kita akan mengumumkan juara umum nantinya, menentukan siapa pemenang dari rangkaian kegiatan lomba 17 Agustus tahun 2022 ini. Dan juga sebelumnya nanti kita akan mendengarkan sedikit arahan dari Bapak Kepala Kantor Wilayah DJP Aceh. Jadi ini mohon untuk datang tepat waktu di 16:30. Kami dari panitia storytelling mengucapkan terima kasih atas atensi dan kontribusi luar biasa. Mohon maaf atas segala kekurangan. Sampai jumpa kembali pada pukul 16:30. Sekian, terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.